Thursday night footy is back for 2024. I'm Paul Grzadka, and with me is former Panther and South Sydney Rabbitoh Josh Mansour, here to preview the rematch of last year's exciting elimination semi-final between the Knights and the Raiders. Josh, first of all, welcome. And second of all, what did you think of the Vegas season openers?
One word was just excitement. And it definitely pulled off such a great spectacle for all the fans that attended that game, especially the American audience. So I feel like it was a big hit. It was definitely a big hit back home, and hopefully it's going to be a recurring thing for the years to come.
I hope so too. On to this game now. The Knights had a fantastic season last year, but now the expectations are much higher.
Yes.
How will the side handle the pressure of going into this game as heavy favourites?
I think quite well, to be totally honest. I feel like the more Kalen ages, he just gets more mature. He's definitely adopted that captaincy role, and he's taken it head on. You see the boys following him out there on the field, and so he should. You know, he went there to change that club, to change the culture of that club, and to definitely lead by example. And you see Adam and Bright as well showed a lot of faith in the halves with Gamble and Hastings, and that's saying that they've got Cogger knocking on the doorstep in that 14 jersey as well. So there is a lot of pressure. There's a lot of depth as well for the Newcastle Knights this season, but there is a big opportunity for them coming into this season to try and take out that premiership. So they are a bit of a dark horse in my opinion.
And how will they go this game? Obviously, Jaden Brayley out injured, so Phineas Crossan, who stepped in admirably last year, does that role again at number 9.
Yep.
But a lot of pressure on the fullback, the captain you mentioned him, Kalen Ponga. How do they revolve the attack around him to get the win?
I think he adapts pretty well under pressure, to be totally honest. I feel like he plays his best footy. You see what he does in Origin, you see what he has done last year as well. And I don't think anyone predicted the Knights to get that far in the finals. And last year, like you said, the Raiders did take it to them up at Newcastle Stadium. So it is going to be an interesting game. I know one thing, Ricky Stewart loves being an underdog. They are playing in Canberra. Yes, they have some personnel missing, but it's going to be a close game if I'm going to be honest.
Well, let's talk about the Raiders now. A new look side, no Jack Whiten, no Jared Croker, Elliott Whitehead out injured, and a new 5'8" in Ethan Strange. What do you make of him and the Raiders side in general?
Yeah, exciting, but like you said, Paulie, very inexperienced side. Excitement comes from that. You know, it can go either way, unfortunately, but I think the biggest question on everyone's mind is like life after Whiten. So what's that going to look like for the Canberra Raiders? And, you know, Jackie Whiten has been there for so many years. He's been the man that always looked to steer the ship and to create something out of nothing. So who's going to step into those big shoes? Time will tell.
Big shoes to fill. Ricky Stewart, you mentioned him. He does like to have that underdog status, and they nearly got away with it last year. Went to Golden Point. And it's a monster pack, even without Corey Horsburgh and Elliott Whitehead. So what about Josh Papali'i? What about Joe Tarpanay? Can they lead from the front and get an upset win?
Well, those two guys got to put the team on their back and just roll the sleeves up and go forward. You know, we do know that the Canberra Raiders love that power game and that power forward. So yes, it's going to be a big question mark with those two guys, and they're going to have to really roll up their sleeves, like I said, to get this team going. So they do have, I should say, a very inexperienced side, you know, with Strange, and you've got, you know, Kaya Weeks as well. He's knocking on the door as well. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets a start in the coming weeks. But you also got now Xavier Savage on the wing, replaced by Rapana at fullback. So a lot of question marks, a lot of plays in different positions. I think it's exciting for Canberra, if I'm going to be totally honest, but it's definitely a new era, and I'm sure the fans can't wait to see him play out there.
Who are you tipping to win?
I'm going to have to go with the Newcastle Knights. I feel like they're really stacked. I feel like they're really primed for a big year, especially with Kalen Ponga at the back there. It's going to be an exciting time for the Newcastle fans, and I'm going to have to go with Newcastle.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
This game is on Thursday. Kick-off is at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. You can watch it on Channel 9, Foxtel, Sky New Zealand or Kayo. Tickets available at NRL.com. The Warriors are facing off against the Sharks on Friday night. I'm Paul Grzadka, and with me is former Australian and Lebanon winger Josh Mansour to preview this clash. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Paulie.
The Warriors were incredible in 2023, finishing one game short of the grand final. Now, in 2024, can they replicate it first up in front of likely a sellout crowd at home?
Yes, they can, Paulie, I believe. I feel like, again, like you said, incredible is the perfect word for the Warriors last season. In terms of recruitment, they've definitely gone forwards. They haven't really lost too many players in the off-season. They've got Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Kurt Capewell, two proven winners, and at a sellout crowd potentially in New Zealand, it's going to be a big game.
And we look at coach.
Yes.
Andrew Webster winning the Dally M Coach of the Year.
Yep.
Sean Johnson, runner-up, Dally M Player of the Year.
Yep.
So are we banking on this and those new buys, as you said?
I think in a lot of people's eyes last year, Sean Johnson was the Daily M winner, to be totally honest. But yeah, what a year Sean Johnson has made in 2023. Can he replicate that this year? Potentially. He definitely has all the players around him to make that happen. And if I'm going to be totally honest, I'm looking at the Warriors and I'm feeling they're dark horses for the Premiership. You know, they've definitely got a great side. You know, again, Sean Johnson, he's not getting any younger. You've got AFB going to the Sharks next year. So, you know, those two guys are big name players for that team. You know, culturally, all the boys love them to death, and I'm sure they want to do something special this year for them.
Premiership windows, they're right in the middle of it.
Exactly right.
Let's move on to the Sharks. You mentioned them. Sean Johnson used to play for them, AFB going there. Maybe we could say for 2024, though, they're flying a bit under the radar because no big names going, no big names coming necessarily. How do you think they'll go in this one?
Well, you look at their 1 to 7, they've got probably arguably one of the best 1 to 7s in the comp. You know, they've got a great back line, a lot of threats on left and right. I think the biggest question marks are going to be around Nicho Hynes and that halves pairing with Braden Trindle. So, yes, last year he was with Matt Moylan. He's now departed into the Super League. And again, Braden Trindle has been knocking on the door. I played with him last year in a couple of games for Newtown, and you know he's an ultimate competitor. He's very vocal out there on the field, and I think that's what Nicho was lacking last year. Nicho's more of a runner, in my opinion, and I think with Braden there to steer the ship, I think it's going to take a lot of pressure off Nicho's shoulders.
And the other part for Nicho Hynes, obviously a bit of Origin selection rejection last year, shall we say? So how can he sort of bounce back from that?
Don't need more added motivation than that. You know, he's definitely an Origin player in my eyes. I know about this year he'll definitely be going and putting his best foot forward, and especially for the Sharks. I feel like the Sharks last year definitely underperformed. They're a team that were there, but they weren't, and they were in games and they weren't, and they just weren't consistent enough. And I feel like the biggest question mark for the Sharks this year is consistency.
Yeah. All right, good stuff, Josh. But who do you think will win? Packed out, go Media Stadium potentially?
Up the Waz, baby. I'm going to have to go up the Waz, you know, excitement. I know I'm thinking with my head and my heart for this one. So, yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a packed stadium. Round one, it's going to be good.
The title tilt is on. You heard it here first. Josh Mansour, thank you.
Thank you.
This game is on Friday. Kick-off is at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. And you can watch it on Foxtel, Sky New Zealand or KO. Tickets are available at NRL.com. Friday Night Footy returns for 2024, and it doesn't get any better than this. I'm Paul Grzadka, and with me suitably is the former Penrith Panther himself, Josh Mansour, to go over the bumper clash between the Storm and the Panthers. Josh, how pumped are you for this one?
So pumped, so pumped. I know the Panthers fans out there and the Panthers will seed him with that Challenge Cup loss. Now they're back. They're back to play round one against the biggest, one of the, arguably the biggest teams the past decade, the Melbourne Storm. The bit of a rivalry there as well. I know one thing, the hardest place to play is in Melbourne, and especially with round one, especially with Craig Bellamy's record, never lost a round one clash.
Well, we'll get to the Panthers and the fallout of the World Club Challenge, but let's talk Melbourne first. Some key players under injury cloud. Cameron Munster will be given right up to kick off. Nelson Asafa Solomona won't be playing. And then, of course, Ryan Pappenhausen is returning from an injury-riddled 2023 season. How important is the fitness of these big guns for the Storm's 2024 campaign?
Extremely important, extremely. Pappenhausen, great to have him back. Obviously, a very key cog in that Melbourne Storm attack and defence. But again, with the injury cloud around Munster, there's a lot of question marks with how this team's going to perform this weekend. Again, they're coming up against the Premiership heavyweights, the Panthers. It's going to be a big task. I guess the biggest thing for them is obviously Craig Bellamy. You know, they never lost a round one clash ever, and they are playing at home. So will there be a bit of fatigue in the Panthers coming from overseas in that Challenge Cup final potentially? But it's going to be a big game, especially with those two players if they're going to play.
Harry Grant, the number 9, he's been made captain of Melbourne this year, already an Australian representative, but do you see him raising the bar to yet another level this season?
He needs to. He just simply has to. You know, everything happens around Harry. You know, he's very crafty at a dummy half, and he definitely had Cameron Smith playing under him for a few years. So, he's the captain for a reason. He's definitely a great leader, and you know what? Christian Welsh is demoted to the bench. It was unfortunate for him to lose that captaincy, but I'm sure he's going to come out and have a big year for the Melbourne Storm.
Motivation for him. Let's turn to your beloved Penrith Panthers now.
Yep.
I think fair to say hard done by, shall we say, in the World Club Challenge.
We'll both say that.
How do they bounce back from that and also deal with the travel to and from England and then go to Melbourne to face the Storm this Friday?
Cards they've been dealt poorly. It is what it is. It is a big task, but saying that they got Jerome Luai back, named at 6, and it is his final year at the club, and you've seen in the media reports early in the week that how much he means to that team. All the boys coming out in support of Jerome and his decision to leave the club at the end of this year, but again, it's back to business as usual. They are coming up against a big team in the Melbourne Storm, and if you look at the last few meetings against the Melbourne Storm, Panthers have come up better. So it is going to be an interesting clash. There is a lot of question marks for both sides.
Yeah.
I guess it turns up on the day it's going to take out the Chockies.
Let's look at their new centre pairing. Taylor May takes over from Stephen Crichton, but a lot of pressure will go on to Isaac Tungo as well. He's permanently moved to the right now. How do you see the Penrith backline going without Crichton?
Massive loss with Crichton. Crichton was a big game player. He could do everything. He was a goal kicker, he could score tries, assists, and he could fill in multiple positions. So with Taylor May back, obviously coming off a big injury with the ACL, there are question marks with him. How is he going to perform? How is he going to defend in the centres, attacking the centres? It's a big positional change in my opinion, coming from the wing into the centres. And you look at that left edge, that's where they leak most of their tries in the Challenge Cup final. There was a bit of disconnect between him and Sunia on the edge there, and you also got Luke Garner filling in the back row now. So you've got a pretty much new makeshift left edge. A lot of questions there. I'm sure that the Storm are going to definitely send a lot of traffic down that edge and test those boys out.
All right, Josh, this won't be easy. Who are you taking, the Round 1 Professionals Melbourne or your old team Penrith?
I'm going to have to go Panthers, Paulie. I think the Penrith Panthers have got all the ammunition they need to win this game. Yes, there is a factor of fatigue, but I think the Panthers can get it done.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
This game is on Friday. Kick-off is at 8:05 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. You can watch it on Channel 9, Foxtel, Sky New Zealand or Kayo. Tickets available at nrl.com. Rivalry game comes early for the Eels and Bulldogs. I'm Paul Grzadka, and with me is former New South Wales and Australian winger Josh Mansour to go over this encounter. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Paulie.
Parramatta had a very slow start to 2023 and it cost them, falling one win short of a finals berth. This week, they get the opportunity to right those wrongs with a home game against one of their arch rivals, the Bulldogs. How do you think they fare?
Underperformed is a big word for the Parramatta Eels in 2023, Paulie. They definitely want to go into the season and start strong. They did start slow last year, and I know the haunting of last season is definitely fueling their motivation for this year. So they are coming up against the Bulldogs, another team that want to make amends for their last season's performance, and a new makeshift team as well. So anything can happen in this game. I know one thing that Parramatta Eels fans will be coming out in numbers at the stadium this weekend. It's going to be a big game.
Should be a big crowd. For Parramatta, they've got a giant pack, some very exciting outside backs, but really it all comes down to their halves, Dylan Brown and Mitch Moses. Can these two take Parramatta to the promised land in 2024?
I believe they can. You've got two international halves there, Dylan Brown, Mitch Moses. Dylan, one of the best runners in the game, and Mitch Moses, one of the best halves in the game, Origin half, especially from last season. So Mitch will definitely be knocking on the door again to hopefully get that spot again in Origin. But we're talking round 1 now. It is a big game. It is a new season, and I know one thing for sure, that Parramatta Eels can't afford to start slow like they did last season. So they do have big boppers. They have a great team when you look at them on paper. But again, consistency is going to be a question. Like, they're coming up against teams from last season where they didn't really perform or at the bottom of the ladder. So they're coming up against the Bulldogs. I know one thing for sure, the Bulldogs are going to be crawling, scratching for every single point this season.
Let's talk about the Bulldogs now. A lot of change this past 2 off-seasons. Amazingly, not one player remains from the original 30-man 2021 squad. What do you think of the most recent new additions to Cameron Ciraldo's Chargers, in particular your old teammate, Stephen Crichton?
Well, I feel like Cam had no choice but to do that. He's trying to mould a new club, new culture, along with Phil Gould there. So I feel like all the recruitments that has come into the Bulldogs now, I feel like I've got to do a pretty good job.
This is the team.
This is the team for Cameron. I feel like they're still lacking a couple of big bodies up front, but saying that, I feel like their 1 to 5 is arguably one of the best in the comp. They're young, they're exciting, they can score points, And obviously the biggest acquisition is Stephen Crichton. He is now officially their captain, their club captain. How does he adopt with that role and put that pressure on his back? Time will tell, but I feel like he can handle the job.
Another former Penrith Panther, Matt Burton, playing at 6. A lot of pressure on him, and then Drew Hutchison winning the number 7 role over Toby Sexton. Are you surprised by this, and how do you think that pairing will go?
I feel like Matt Burton's more of a 6, to be fair. I feel like Drew Hutchison would definitely alleviate a lot of pressure off Matt's shoulders. Matt's a runner. he wants the ball in his hands as much as he can. He's got one of the best shows in the game. He's got one of the best kicks in the game. And now they've got, again, a left foot kicker on the left with Matty, who's got the best kick in the game. And then you've got Drew Hutchison with a right foot kick. So I feel like the Bulldogs are going to be exciting this year. I really do, especially with the likes of Josh Adokar on the wing. You've got Blake Taaffe at fullback. Jacob Kiraz now into the centres. It's going to be an exciting year for the Bulldogs, in my opinion. And
their attack you mentioned, but also the defence looked like a big improvement in the pre-season games. So I'm anticipating one of those traditional Dogs, Eels grinders. Which way are you going? What's your tip?
Well, we've been hearing all off seasons the Dogs of War mentality, right? They want to bring that back, really instill that into the team. And Cameron Serrato is a defence coach from the Panthers, and you see what he's done and was able to achieve there. So he's definitely adopted that same philosophy with the Bulldogs. Have they been able to adopt that new process, those new systems? They have, I believe. They had enough time to. So this game's going to be close, I feel. It's going to be a big game, but I think I'm just going to go with the Parramatta Eels.
Take the home side.
I'm going to take the home side.
All right, thanks, Josh.
No worries.
This game is on Saturday. Kick-off is at 5:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. And you can watch it on Foxtel, Sky New Zealand or Kayo. Tickets are available at NRL.com. Titans and Dragons face off Saturday night. I'm Paul Grzadka, and with me is our number 1 NRL expert, Josh Mansour, to preview this match. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for that wrap.
Gold Coast enter 2024 with a brand new coach. 2-time Premiership winner, Des Hasler. Josh, Des has been successful pretty much everywhere he's gone as a player and coach. How can you turn around a club that has perennially underachieved, we should say, in the Titans?
I'm going to have to say it's going to take time, Paulie. Des definitely, he's known to be a mad scientist, from his Bulldog days. So I'm sure he's going to be adopting a new strategy for the Titans. And with all that, it takes time. We saw what it done in at Canterbury with Cameron Serrato taking charge there. I feel like it definitely takes a lot of time, and when you want to instill processes, new systems, defence and attack.
They get their first game at home, which helps, and it's against a fellow non-top 8 opponent. But no David Fifita, no Jaden Campbell, and I guess they still have some big names, but AJ Brimson moved into the centres for the first time.
Well, you got David Fifita out, Jaden Campbell, and those two guys, a lot happens from those two guys. They're excitement machines, they break a lot of tackles, and where they're going to find those points, I guess time will tell. But, you definitely got AJ Brimson in the centres there. Another positional change, coming from fullback. He's going to have to make a lot more tackles. He's going to have to take those carries coming out of yardage.
Moses Sully running at him. I mean, that's a tough test for game 1 and centre.
It's going to be a bit of a mismatch in my opinion, but I feel like the thing that AJ possesses is speed. So he's definitely going to be threatening when he gets the early ball on that edge there, especially coming up against Moses Sully. So it is going to be a big matchup, but I feel like it's going to come down to the forwards, like you said, Big Tino, Fotuaiki. So it's going to, a lot of question marks around those boys if they can go forward, especially against that Dragons pack.
Let's turn to the Dragons now. Like the Titans, they've signed a premiership winning coach in the off-season in Shane Flanagan. What changes will he bring to the club, especially off the field as well as on?
Well, he's had some time off. He's been assistant coaches at a few clubs now, and now he's got that head coach role. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of excitement for him. And he is a bit of an industrial coach. He definitely likes to go through the middle, as well, like we saw back in the Cronulla Sharks days. And he does have a pretty good pack. I feel like they definitely can. And you look at the back line. You've got Lomax now to the wing. You've got Jack Bird there. You've got Ravalawa on the wing as well. So you've definitely got points there. Toro Sloan, I think that's another question mark on everyone's lips. Is he going to perform this year? Is he definitely going to shoot out of the blocks and make that number 1 jersey his? Because there are a few question marks in terms of Zach Lomax going to fullback as well. So there is a bit of pressure there, but I think best things come out of pressure as well, and it shows their true character.
He can get the best out of those type of players. But then you've also got his son. Kyle Flanagan comes into the halves, supposedly to take some of the pressure off Ben Hunt, some of the general play duties. How do you see that combination working for Central Georgia?
Well, we saw the combination with father-son happen in Penrith, and it definitely worked out for them. So it doesn't work out for the Dragons. You never know.
That'd be it. Fans would be happy to hear you say that.
I feel Kyle. It's now or never for Kyle. You know, he's had a couple of poor seasons out in Canterbury, unfortunately, but now he's at the Dragons under his dad. So he's also got Ben Hunt, Origin winning half, and he's been there for many years now, and Ben's definitely put his hand up. He's in for the long haul now. It's good to see, and it definitely gives his players and the fans a bit of confidence. So for me, in my opinion, I feel like Kyle's in for a big year.
The Dragons showed some improvement in the pre-season, but is it enough to go up to the Gold Coast and get the win? What's your prediction?
I'm kind of liking the Dragons this week, Paulie, if I'm going to be honest. I feel like they've got the team to do it. Definitely cause an upset. Again, with David Fifita, Jaden Campbell, I'm finding it hard to find points with the Gold Coast Titans. With Des Hasler there as well, I feel like he's going to have to make dramatic changes.
Yep.
And I feel like time is going to be needed for them to adjust to that. So I'm going to go the Dragons.
Fair enough. Thanks, Josh. This game is on Saturday. Kickoff is at 7:35 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. You can watch it on Foxtel, Sky New Zealand or KO. Tickets are available at NRL.com. Dolphins v Cowboys round out our massive 2-week round one. I'm Paul Grzadka, joined by former international Josh Mansour to preview this all-Queensland affair. How are you, Josh?
Very good. How are you?
Very good, very good. Looking forward to this one. The Dolphins, they had a successful first season in the NRL, despite not making the top 8, but expectations change for season 2. Do you see more improvement or a sophomore slump for the competition newcomers in 2024?
As I say, I think it's a slump's coming poorly. We started the season off to a bad start for the Dolphins. Tommy Gilbert gone for ACL. The biggest Achilles heel for the Dolphins last year was injuries as well. So they did start really well. A lot of excitement, a lot of momentum at the start of the season, but as the season went on, injuries started coming into play and their depth was really tested. So it is going to be a tough year, in my opinion, for the Dolphins. Wayne Bennett's last year as well, and they're coming up against the Cowboys team that's full of youth and excitement. So big test for 2024.
Well, you talked about the depth, and Coach Wayne Bennett has accumulated some more players this season after it was sorely tested in 2023.
Yep.
But I guess with more players comes competition for spots, and then we've seen the likes of Ewan Aitken, Jake Averillo, Isaiah Katoa. They've all missed selection for round one. What do you think about how, when you're playing in this sort of environment and sort of the competition for spots, does it work for you or can it work against you?
It can go both ways, Paul, if I'm going to be honest. It can obviously motivate you to work harder, go away, do all the little things right and perfect your game in Reggie's, or, you can go to Reggie's and sulk about it and, say to yourself, I don't belong here. So it can definitely be detrimental, or it can assist the player in terms of his career. But again, with the Dolphins, they have recruited really well. Herbie Farnworth, great centre, Thomas Flegler. But again, with Tommy Gilbert gone, I feel like he's a player that's their ultimate to play on that side. He just does all the good little things right. He really ties that middle up, but there's going to be a lot of question marks on who now adopts that number 13 jersey.
Let's switch to the Cowboys now. Coach Todd Payten would have been very disappointed with last year's efforts after a top 4 finish the year before. How does this team bounce back in 2024?
Well, they're going to have to bounce back, Paul. I feel like the hype from last year really got to them. They were, again, very underwhelming. They definitely got decided to do something special.
Yep.
I think it's all going to come down to attitude, and they got to put the performances together. They've re-signed Tommy Dearden now on a long-term deal, and you've got Chad Townsend there, so old warhorse to steer ship. But in my opinion, they've got a great mix of youth, experience in that side. So there should be no excuses of the Cowboys doing something special this year, in my opinion. You got Jason Taumalola there as well in number 13, and yes, I know there'll be seasoning of their performances last year. They definitely rectified that in the pre-season, you like to think, and Toddy Payten would have had to address those issues that really hurt him last year.
And he has addressed them. You mentioned Taumalola. He will now not have the captaincy, and Tom Dearden, who you talked about, co-captain with Ruben Cotter. Yep. These are 2 Origin players, Cotter for Australia as well. What will it do for the confidence of those players?
Yeah, it's never nice to lose the captaincy. Taumalola has been there for years. He's a premiership winner there as well. He's a star player. So will it hurt the ego a little bit? Of course it will, but the Cowboys are looking to the future. They encompass Tommy Dearden to be that captain. He is captain material. He's a Queenslander, proud Queenslander, and I'll probably see him wearing that number 7 jersey for Queensland for a few years now. So I feel like in the end of the day, I feel like the Cowboys and Todd Payten, I should say, have made the right decision to name Tommy Dearden as captain, but again, they got to start putting wins on the board for 2024.
Another tough one to tip, the Queensland Derby. Which way are you leaning?
I'm leaning towards the Cowboys, Paulie. Again, I feel like this year's going to be a big year for the Cowboys. They're exciting to watch. There's a lot of question marks still with the Dolphins, I feel, especially how Herbie Farmer is going to adjust and Thomas Flegler to this new system and new team. So I'm going to hedge my bets and go with the Cowboys.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks.
This game is on Sunday and kick-off is at 4:05 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. You can watch it on Channel 9, Foxtel, Sky New Zealand or Kayo. Tickets available at nrl.com.